This video clip accompanies the biogeography virtual field trips, and we're at Mount Keira. This is the third site on Mount Keira that we're looking at, and it contains some Illawarra Escarpment subtropical rainforest. This site is right at the Mount Keira Scout Camp on Mount Keira Road, and it's on the Dave Walsh track, so you can walk through here without any trouble. We want to get an overview of the site. What sort of topography is there? It might be a little bit hard to make this out, but this is like a sort of a gully. On the left hand side is a slope. In the middle of the picture is actually a little stream with rocks, and then it slopes up again on the right hand side of the picture. How many layers of vegetation? You can probably make out that there's a lot more happening in this forest. It's a lot more complex. There are trees. How tall are they? There is quite a significant shrub layer. There's quite a few herbs in the form of ferns. So the ground cover is quite a bit more substantial. So if we went here on a hot day, you'd be very glad of the shade in here. It would feel cooler. It's quite protected. We would be looking at what kind of soil and substrate there is and signs of disturbance, that all of these affect what kind of vegetation will grow there. So if we look at what's underfoot, up on the path, the soil is sandy but quite compacted. But the major difference here in this site is water. There are rocks, and when there's been quite a bit of rain, that's a stream that runs quite rapidly. But even when in dry periods, there are little ephemeral pools of water. So looking at the vegetation layers, there are quite a few tall trees and also small trees and shrubs, ground cover, and the big difference here is that there's an awful lot of vines. Some of the ground cover is ferns, made up of ferns. There are a number of ferns like rasp fern and maidenhair fern. There's a lot of vines. You can really see them sort of tangling there around the trunks, things like anchor vine and pepper vine. There are other layers here in this rainforest, such as epiphytes, which are plants growing on another plant. You can see those ferns growing on the trunk there of that tree. So what about the dominant species? Well, there are lots of trees with this reddish brown bark. That's the one on the right of that picture. That's a lily pilly. It has a bright red fruit, or pinky red fruit. Also, coachwood is prevalent here. That has a mottled bark. It's like the tree on the left. And that's quite beautiful when it's in flowering. It has small white to red flowers. Also on this site is a red cedar, which was once very common in the Illawarra, but has been was a commercial species, so has been largely removed. So there are numerous ferns here, and again there's that orange thorn that we saw in the first site. There's a lot of moss. Moss does like moist areas, so there's a lot of moss growing here, particularly on the rock. What about disturbance? Well, the main disturbance here is weeds, things like this wild ginger, and also there's a whole bank here of lantana.